Welcome to Bullets and Milk, our Westworld after show here at that hashtag show. My name is Daniel, and to my right I have...
I'm Myverick Garcia.
And I'm Joe.
We're going to discuss episode 7. That was called Trompe L'Oeil. That's French.
4?
Well, I was going to go into that after.
Yeah, cool.
I'm going to give you a breakdown. Anyway, what you can do is keep up with the conversation right on Twitter using the hashtag Bullets and Milk. Also, keep the conversation going in the comments below. Give us a comment. Trust me, we'll comment back to you. What we should do right now is roll the clip.
We need to demonstrate just how dangerous Ford's creations can be.
We found something quite disturbing.
I've prided myself on being a survivor, but surviving is just another loop.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the episode itself.
Are we on a whole new episode? I swear.
Right?
I'm like, seriously, did we just do another show of Westworld?
Before we get into that, though, Daniel, what's it mean?
Well, it actually means optical illusion.
Now, fun fact about this episode is that episode 7 was actually where they shut down production
to
figure out what they were going to do with the rest of the season.
So it is like a brand new episode.
Well, not necessarily. They shut it down after this episode to figure out what they were going to do with the rest of the season and going forward. Because I don't know if anybody knows this, but today, which is the 14th, Westworld just got announced for season 2.
Yeah.
And if you go on the website, has anybody went on the website today? All right. So if you go on the website, the first thing that happens is it looks like it gets hacked. Mm-hmm. And it shows all these images and it confirms that it's season 2. It's pretty phenomenal. Anybody that hasn't been on the website, I suggest doing it because you can talk to an AI. And if you ask it a few times, like, who are you? It like glitches out and freaks out. And it's pretty in-depth and it gives you a lot of answers. And it's just like you're going to any, booking like a vacation somewhere. It's pretty crazy.
That's amazing how far the show has really gone. Just for everything.
It's a rabbit hole that's thrown of a ditch that's inside of something else. It's amazing.
Which again is touched on in this episode with Alice in Wonderland.
Well, funny enough, what do you guys think, or how do you think the title itself connects, or at least relates to the plot?
Well,
is it kind of fitting? I mean, optical illusion.
The optical illusion.
That's what it means. It means optical illusion.
I mean, definitely. I mean, obviously, by the end, we will talk about it. Why there's definitely a huge optical illusion. And I think we're all actually a few weeks ago. I think you even might have touched on it, and we shot you down with saying killing that theory.
What theory?
We'll find out later when we talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
As to why.
Leave the people at suspense, Maverick. Of course.
Well, starting off the show itself, we get a little bit of you guys already know, we're not spoiling it for you, a little bit of an optical illusion with Bernard reading to his sick son. Mm-hmm. Did you guys happen to catch Charlie's last words?
It was...
Because a lot of people were like, he was mumbling.
No, I didn't. I'm sure I did, but at the time
because I know
he
says everything would be what it isn't, even me. And then, then he says, yeah, you're perfect and you're going to be okay. Then he says, Dad, listen to me.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then that's it. He just passes away.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, geez, that's kind of an expositional setup, in my opinion. I mean, that's what we're seeing there. It's just something where it's like, okay, he says everything would be what it isn't, which means because the son isn't. Essentially, he doesn't exist. We all know what happens.
So what do you think Charlie is trying to say to him then when he says, Dad, listen to me?
That's the weirdest part. I don't know, because when you really think about it, that means Ford created that whole memory.
Well, also we have to realize, too, that he was dreaming. Bernard was dreaming. And we know that the hosts have dreams, but we don't know from what...
Right, but they're not necessarily dreams. They're previous memories.
Sure. But this could have been a planted previous memory.
But
right, to make him seem more human?
So of course, that's the whole thing. Just like where it's like he was having video conferencing or, the FaceTime with his wife. Yeah. That was all, fake and set up. But the thing is, so Ford created that memory too?
Well, yeah. Why wouldn't he?
I see what you're saying. I think the question would be, are these planted memories, actual memories, or are these... memories from a previous build, like how all the other hosts have been.
I don't have a previous build. I don't
right.
think.
Well, he could have actually, because what if he had another job and another title? But they do reference that he had this life end this job with a
yeah.
kid. So maybe this was just a part. Well, I don't want to say even
Which means-
narrative. Maybe he was just. Actually, I have a theory about all of this later on. This
The
will play
whole
in
way that
everything.
we're talking about this is on the premise that you guys know that we found out
Spoiler
in this
alert.
episode that Bernard
Spoiler
is
alert.
a host. So now we're talking about this already, now trying to dissect what this dream means. But before we knew that, though, because obviously they didn't reveal that till the end.
But I love the way they did reveal it. But a lot of people called this out last week, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Because
that's right.
Ford appeared straight out of nowhere in the house, and Bernard obviously didn't see like the door or anything.
No, exactly.
So
oh,
yeah, so a lot of people had already kind of like saw this coming.
alluded to it.
Yeah, and now I think obviously we got confirmation, a little confirmation.
A little bit. There are breadcrumbs all over the place for this whole episode. One of the breadcrumbs that was interesting was when Bernard was sitting having his analysis with what is the guy with the scar?
Rodrigo Santoro's character,
There you go. He has that
the outlaw.
the outlaw.
Hector Hammond, no Hector.
But that was interesting at the moment where he says the line that all of them say when they see something they're not supposed to. When it was like,
Doesn't look like
so
anything.
yeah. What's this?
You know, I
Doesn't
have
look
two
like
questions
anything, right?
about this scene actually. Two questions. Number one, and maybe you guys can answer this. Number one, if Bernard, obviously since Bernard's a host, how is he able to identify the pictures? Because he wouldn't be able to identify what wasn't reality and what is.
Well, most likely he's been pumped with enough, like, this is what the world is. This is what the real world is. Because he has to believe he's real. So much so that he has to fool everyone else.
So my second question actually is, okay,
Because it was all, I think that it was all, because it is his reality. And what was taken out of his reality was the picture that later we'll see that Teresa shows him. And that's when he says, it doesn't
then
look
again,
like
maybe Bernard didn't even register the pictures because he doesn't really make a comment on them.
They don't see what can hurt them. So most likely it was just a blank picture.
Yeah, maybe it was just a blank screen to him. Maybe he was like, hey, can you see this? Obviously, you're looking at my hand, but there's really something here.
Oh, no. I think that he actually
He's
saw.
talking about,
I'm
like, the
picture,
diagram,
the
the
diagram
pentagram of
shows him all built.
But all right, maybe.
I mean,
All right,
as
so
far
what
as-
was your second question?
Well, my second thing actually has to do with the website because the website, it says in the disclaimer that every picture that they see in Westworld has to be taken. They can't bring pictures in.
Right.
They can't really take pictures out unless it's from Westworld. There's two things, and we'll touch on these later. Number one is, do you remember, this is going to go way back, and this is a little off topic, but when Abernathy found that picture of like Times Square, well, that had to have been somewhere in one of the Westworld builds because who smuggled it in? You can't smuggle that stuff in.
Well, that's the thing. That's what made everything hit the wall.
I think it's a
Because
layer.
someone
I think it's another world that is another layer.
You think so?
Yeah, that's a theory.
Touching back on what you said with Bernard being a host and like what is reality, whenever all these pictures were presented to him, like why didn't he recognize that? Didn't we say whenever William first enters the park, the woman that greets him and then puts it all together to dress him before he enters into the park, wasn't she a host?
Yes.
So then she's also made
Well, it was a
aware
little
of what-
undefined if she was or not
That's
because
true.
they never said, because they were like, he asked, "Are you a host?" And she was pretty much, "I will be whatever you
Well,
want."
but in the credits, it's a greeting host. Oh. But,
Right.
yeah.
So clearly that they can be programmed to understand as much as you want them to understand.
Oh yeah, and that's something that happens later, which sparked my attention. Later, I'm just going to go to it now. Later, when they were doing the whole moment with Clementine, where she gets hit. And
Well,
she gets,
here's another
that guy,
point
that
that
tech was a host.
Well, here's another thing that I want to bring up too.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, the tech was a host. The guy that beat her up and stuff.
Yeah.
Right, because they programmed.
So I do want to bring up something else. So like you're not actually so on the website it says that you're not allowed to write things and draw things.
Yeah.
But Maeve was able to do that even before she was enlightened, so to
Well,
speak.
then it says we're not able to as guests. It doesn't say the hosts aren't able to.
That's true.
So that's the thing. The host most likely can do that all the time.
I have a few theories based on this episode, though.
I like that actually.
One of them is actually one of your theories. It's reconfirming one of your theories.
But so we did see the Ghost Nation as far as their whole territory and what's happening with them. That was kind of scary as far as the heads on the spikes and et cetera, them riding through.
It's very Games of Thrones-ish.
It was. Now, those are the same exact savages that pretty much killed Maeve. Is that right?
I mean, it
You
looked
like
it-
what they were. Yeah, I could from the memory that she had.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the way the paint was, it was like black
It
and
looked
gray
it.
and
So,
blah blah.
so yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it looked very similar.
The only I just didn't see there's always been like an iconic one where I think he has
Yeah.
horns coming out of him, and I don't remember
see him.
seeing him in the Stormpede of the Ghost Nation.
In the what?
Stampede.
Oh, Stampede. I thought you said
She said
Stormpede.
Stormpede. She said Stormpede.
I did say Stormpede.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we all got what was
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
It was a massive storm. It was almost like a stampede.
That's where I was going with that.
Ooh, See, look at that. See, I got you. I got you
Okay.
back. Don't
All
worry about
right.
it.
So where are we at now in our?
Well, I do want to talk about go straight into Charlotte. Charlotte hatches a plan with Teresa to pretty much have a host
and
kill
her
in the
deal.
park.
Whoa.
Definitely. So she made her uncomfortable. So this way she asserted her dominance automatically.
That. What you got there?
Sorry. Enough. Just keep going.
That's very true, and probably the way that the writer and the director definitely initiated that scene to assert a dominance. But it also kind of goes, I feel like, hand in hand, which later that she might be a host, because that's kind of what.
I think they allude to that, and the reason I think that is because
Ford says it.
Well, Ford says the plan, but he also says in a previous episode that he already knows who's at the park.
Right.
So my assumption is that Ford may have killed this board member already and made her a
replaced
host
her with
and
a host?
replaced her with a host.
Right.
There's
So
going to be
that's-
a lot of that thought going around.
Oh, I know, like
that.
now who has been replaced. That's
Sidelines.
exactly. But so.
Yeah, exactly.
But how she just stands there naked. It was just kind of like that's always how the hosts are.
Naked, yeah.
Very naked.
See, my only thing to combat that is Charlotte herself is a very powerful, in charge type of woman. When she was speaking to Sizemore episode before, she approaches him in a way to coax information out of him without giving too much. And it was just a cat and mouse game. And then once she got to prove who she was, her whole demeanor changed. And it was just more of a, I'm sure of myself. She was cocky in a way. And she's been that way ever since. I don't feel that she's a host just because of that.
Because of her dynamic and personality.
Yeah, and then
I definitely do.
her having sex with a host too. If she's a host, like, what would be the point? Is that to like kind of dissuade you or move you to another direction? Is it misdirection?
Well, I think if
Could be.
Ford's a smart enough guy that's plot. And listen, this whole episode, at least from Ford's perspective, was to position Teresa right exactly where he wanted her. So he needed to have all these things fall into place. So in order to get her where he needed to go, where she needed to go, I think he was smart. And obviously, like, I mean, we're talking about this later, but towards the end of the episode,
Blood sacrifice.
not only that, but he also says
references.
she
Yeah.
said she says something to the effect of like, well, you're obviously not in control. It's like, well, no, I made Bernard bring you here. You know what I mean? So I think that this was a whole long con by Ford to get her in this spot. She knew that she needed to get tempted by Tessa Thompson's character. What's her name?
Charlotte.
Charlotte. She knew Ford knew that she needed to have some kind of stakes and to put that out there by somebody else, which was from Charlotte's character. And then that would obviously lead to her talking to Bernard, which would have in turn lead her down to the house. I think this was all kind of like coming together for him. This was his long plan, his big plan.
Well,
his
see,
long con.
I did have questions even written like, did you guys think that maybe Charlotte kind of knew what was going to happen? Or was Bernard using the host that was in the room to listen in on the conversation? So
You mean
he
was
knew what
Ford?
happening. I mean, Ford.
Oh, that's true.
Because remember,
Yeah,
he
absolutely.
knows everything that everything that's happening, he knows. There are cameras. And if there aren't cameras, well, he can always tap into the host. And he knew that the host was being requested and sent over to her. Everyone
Yeah.
knew. It was a given. When they were like, oh, yeah, they need it for a special thing. Ford knows every one of them if they're taken away from something out of their loop. So I'm thinking he probably was listening in then. And then he heard the whole blood sacrifice thing, and he was like, I got to make sure to say that when I'm going to kill her.
Yeah.
It could have been that way. But I was wondering if Charlotte even knew the true nature of Bernard even before. So it does bring the question of maybe she is a host. Maybe she isn't.
My
I don't know.
money would be on that she is a host. Maverick, you with me? You with me?
I am going to be the one lone voice that says no. I think Ford was listening in through Scarface.
I mean, the only way that would work would just be in the.
But he was shut down.
He was paused. He was paused. But even when they are shut down,
The only way that I could see like where
it,
on his point is that she's not is that if Ford was listening in through the host that was on the bed. What was his name?
Hector.
Hector was to just kind of drive the dagger home to Teresa, saying like that line that Charlotte said to him, like, you guys try to get me, now I'm going to use this line on you.
Actually, think about this for a second.
Okay.
And this is in accordance to why I think she is a host.
I think she's a host, but I'm just saying.
I do think she's a host mainly for a couple reasons. She was planted. If she is a host, she was planted at the not the cabana. What's it called? At
the pool.
At the pool area. To entice, what's our homeboy? Why can't I remember any of their names?
Sizemore.
To entice Sizemore to come back to work. It was that, and Ford kind of needs him to come back too, in a sense, because I think this is all a part of his plan. I think that there's a game going on, obviously, that Ford's playing against the board, and he likes it. Like he said, it's like this little thing that they like to do with him. He's outsmarting them every single step of the way, and I think this is one of those scenarios.
Interesting. You guys want to play a quick game?
Yeah.
Name that tune.
I don't know the song. I was going to ask you.
Did you guys know what the song is?
I
thought
don't
someone
even
would've
necessarily
looked at the notes already,
remember music playing this time.
Oh, there was.
there was. I don't
Music
remember
played.
the song.
Maeve walked over to the piano and shut it down.
What was
She
it?
Closed it. It was actually just the Mariposa Saloon.
Yeah, that's what I
saloon
mean.
theme.
Yeah.
It was just
There
a
was
song
nothing.
that's already played.
Yeah.
The song
Oh, really?
has been playing
That's not, I
forever.
didn't think that there was anything new. It was just
Good
their
catch.
like main.
Good catch.
Okay.
Maverick, you ain't gotta lie. I'm just
Hey, she
kidding.
knows
I'm
what's
just
up.
kidding.
But since we did talk about it, I gotta talk about that scene too. I need to. Maeve is inside the saloon, and then after that, the shade come in. Everything pauses.
We see
and-
her new programming at work now.
Yes, because everyone paused except for her. She's unlocked. She's woke. So she grabs a knife, ready to stab.
Yeah, she's woke AF.
And then, yeah, right? Ready to stab. And then after that, they take Clementine.
So sad.
And when they did, it was interesting to me because, like, when they did that whole thing, you could see her just ready. Like, okay, she was genuinely afraid also, though, because she kind of thought maybe, hey.
Well, even the
they know what's
comment
up.
of like she must have done something really wrong to take her out in the light of day or something, in the middle of the day or something, whatever they said. But yeah, it was. I mean,
If you were Maeve, would you have reacted already? Like you
I would have.
responsible?
I would have been crapping my pants for sure, but I'm not necessarily sure I would have reacted because in that situation, obviously she can feel no pain at this point.
Right.
Because that's her part of
So
her
that's
programming.
not something she should be worried
It's
about.
not something she's worried about. I think she was worried about just being caught. So if I knew that I wasn't going to feel any pain, I'd try to play along as best I could too. Mainly because you don't want to give it up.
She doesn't want to be decommissioned.
Yeah,
After the lobotomy.
exactly.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
What did you say? The lottery?
The lobotomy.
Oh, lobotomy. Yeah.
Oh boy, that was poor Clem.
Ugh, and you saw how, like, in her eye. Like,
Yeah, you saw it like it's
Crushing
her whole,
in.
like well in. It was all right, here goes another bone broken, another bone. It was just going right in.
Yeah.
But moving on to something that unfortunately I was not happy with. William and Dolores' story.
Do you not
was
like? let
boring
ask
for
you-
me.
Let me ask you guys a question. Do you not like the Dolores William? What do you like better, the Dolores William relationship or the Dolores Teddy relationship?
I was thinking about that too as I was watching this. I was like, okay, well, Teddy's going to have to come
Asking
in
all the
now.
questions
Well, here's
I
the
have,
thing,
and
here's the
it's
thing.
Getting me annoyed.
Teddy, what if let's say Ford knows this long game of what's going on. Mm-hmm. What if Teddy's obviously after to help get Dolores back from Wyatt because Wyatt kidnapped her? What if Ford knows all this and he's making William Wyatt in Teddy's head?
Maybe. I think I saw in some of his flashbacks, or Teddy's
Teddy was a different
flashbacks-
person, obviously, but what if Teddy's just a persona?
I have a additional what if, kind of. What if Dolores truly isn't awake and it's part of the narrative to help pull William in even farther into
Could
the
be.
story? Because if you think about it, there's two examples of what it is to be awake. Why are there two when there should only be one? Maeve is awake. how Maeve does
I have two
everything,
really
how Maeve
crackpotty
does everything,
theories, but-
and then you see Dolores's way of how her being awake. It could just be, truth of the matter is, that's how they get the narrative, in these flashes, in these little voices, in these things like that. That's how they get the narrative. It's almost like intuition in a way.
But what's so, and then I mean, now we have to think about, okay, so if Ford programmed Bernard, what was Bernard's motives in unlocking Dolores, having these secret one-on-one
I wondered that same thing.
conversations?
Oh my god, I wondered that same thing.
You know what? It's a great question.
I wondered that same thing, and I was gonna ask that. That's like,
We're doing Daniel's job for him.
yes, you guys are.
What if
And
you're
I
just a
love it.
host?
I love it.
You are
Oh my God.
technically.
Oh my God, what if I am? What if I am a host? You just ruined everything for me right now. That's freaking me out because that's
If
the
anybody was
question.
a host sitting here,
Why do you look at me like that? You're weird.
I think it would be you.
Why?
You think so?
Yeah.
What? Because
You
I
don't think
have
she'd
the
be a
most to gain, or the most to lose, or the most to throw our viewers off in.
I just think
Ooh.
you'd be a host. Let's not make it more complicated than it is.
Well, it has to be complicated because everything in Westworld means something.
Sheesh. All right, moving on.
But so William and Dolores talking about host.
Yeah. What
Their
is it
story
that you
was-
didn't like about it?
Well, okay. At moments, it was just like a lot
Exposition?
No. I love exposition at moments, and that portion that we did get was great. But there was a lot of scenes just to get to one particular part where William says the whole thing about I'm gonna check it out. Let me see. He realizes the true him. Which is exactly what Ford wants. Ford said that's the purpose of the park. Not to go ahead and get to the basis of you, but really what is the true you. That's what
Yeah.
he wants you to get to. And William essentially says, you unlock that in me. Oh, that's what I found. She says, well, I'm not a key. And that was interesting. How
How
do
does
you
she
think?
know that?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
how do you think William should take that? Where she says, I'm not a key. I'm not that thing that's supposed to unlock you. Like, he's trying to throw himself saying, essentially, hey, the one I love, forget about her, and maybe it's all about you. And she says, but I'm not a key. Like, how should he take that? Should he just forget it, move on, or...
How did you take it as a viewer?
It was a little bit of rejection.
Well, yeah.
That's what I felt. And it was just like, for him, he's kind of off kilter now.
Mav, how do
He
you
knows
take
exactly
it?
what to do.
I didn't really see, and now that you mentioned that there's probably a lot more weight to that line, but I guess I saw it more as not necessarily a rejection, but she kind of was throwing herself out there at him, and then finally we get the story about the person that he talks about that is back at home that he loves or is engaged to, because he doesn't even really. Whenever we first spot him in the saloon, his first time into Westworld, when Clementine approaches him,
yeah.
he goes, "There's someone back at home, and
True.
she's real."
Yeah, even when
But he
Logan
never
goes up and
says that he loves her. It's almost like maybe he's doing it as a
do you
game,
think he's doing it
yeah.
mainly because Logan's not there anymore and that's Logan's sister? He's like, I can get away with it here.
No, I think
not cheating if no one else. I
He
guess that's
does
what
say
he's
so
doing.
himself, like he didn't feel alive, and that she does that for him. But anyway, I think back to the line. I think it's more so of like I'm nobody's, like I'm not gonna. Like I said, back to like Dolores, like she's saying I'm not a key, as in like choose, like I'm not gonna be like second choice. Or
I took it more as
Your freedom.
I'm not a key, as in like I'm changing my own narrative. I'm not here for anybody else except myself.
Yeah.
That's the way I took it, because she even states a couple weeks ago where they pretty much say, where did you learn that? She's like, I can write my own something about her own narrative, or not narrative.
Well, after she shoots down the guys.
yeah, she says something about her.
Imagine
She's
a world where I'm not the damsel.
damsel.
There you go.
Exactly.
Thank you.
She wrote
Very
her
good.
own narrative so she would not be the damsel in distress, which was good. Speaking about a woman that is definitely not a damsel in distress, I want to go back to talking about Charlotte and of course Teresa. They finally have their plan all ready to be hatched, and they bring it in front of Ford. Now, that scene for me.
And this is also a small Easter egg to Thor Ragnarok, because Charlotte is playing Valkyrie,
that's
and
right.
Thor's father is Odin, which is played by Anthony Hopkins. There you go. I'm here
See,
for a reason,
look at
guys.
that. You know what that's called? Full circle. Full circle.
But anyway, it was an intense scene. Here's the thing about this scene. I think
was so
Ford
much.
saw it coming the whole... Obviously, he orchestrated this.
Dude, okay. What did you notice about Ford that let you know that he orchestrated it? In that scene. Only in that scene.
Is that he knew... It almost seemed like when he was getting this information, he was trying to look shocked, but he wasn't. But even when they fire Bernard, he doesn't say a word because he knows all this is kind of going down. This is all for a show for her, for Teresa. This is all show for her.
Okay.
If I saw any reaction at all, and this would have been maybe on the directors trying to make you feel a sense of sadness or remorse for Ford, was his reaction to Clementine being beat.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And like her reaching out at the wall, him just watching her.
Well, for me, it was trippy because without a flinch, everything that happened, when they even gave the example or explanation of what he was about to see, he sat there with the same face, just. And then they're showing Clementine getting hit and beaten. Everyone, you can see their reactions, like, oh, the wincing, and he's the only one standing still, not moving at all. I'm just watching. I already know what's happening. And then, even something else about it, that the violence, that there's something to be said about it in that scene itself. It wasn't hyper stylized or anything like that.
No, it was brutal. It was savage and brutal.
It was savage and it was brutal. And the thing is, a lot of people, when they watched it, what was interesting to me, most people flinched when Clementine got hit. When she was getting hit and she was getting choked, people flinched when they're watching it. When she turns the tables around and hits him, slams his head into it, and all that stuff, and he dies, even though he's the host, no one. And that's something that's interesting because that has to deal with, how we in society do see violence in that way, where it was like, okay, you see a man hit a woman, it's like, oh, geez, come on, are you serious?
Maverick hits me all the time. Nobody says anything.
Well, we actually encourage it, but that's off camera. But what we did see on camera there was her flip the table over, essentially, and take it into her own hands. No one. Yeah. There wasn't one person that complained on the internet or anything, and that was interesting to me. It just said something about.
I think, but also itself. At that point, you knew what was about to happen. You knew that, like I did. I already foresaw that they were going to make a scene out of her. That he was going to go to attack her, and that she was going to show that these updates that Ford had done are violent to the humans, to the guests that are coming into the Westworld. Because
they're holding a grudge, which is something, even though they created that whole thing.
But I actually like that they sorry to cut you off. I actually like that they refer back to this because we didn't see that. We saw this in like episode 2.
That's all I was just going to say.
And I really like they touch upon this again. So it's not just a plot hole. Or not, I say plot thread, I guess.
Because it was something that they talked about earlier, like you said, hence how we got the name Bullets and Milk. I mean, he's over there, shooting people, drinking the milk. All right, whatever it is, and he was just shooting people. And
Elise.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Elsie.
One of these episodes, I'm going to get it right.
One day.
Elsie is the one that says, as if he was holding a grudge. And it's just something that carried through. And it was great to see it pay off in another way for someone else to see besides them. Someone that's not internal. So that was pretty cool. No. Okay. I had another thought, but I'll let it go. I'll let it go. I'll let it go.
I just can't wait to get to my theories.
One thing that was interesting was Teresa did point out that maybe you guys didn't write this code.
Yeah.
Did you guys catch that when she was like, I don't know, maybe you guys didn't write this code, or maybe you're just being sloppy. But either way it goes, and then we drop the hammer and Bernard's fired. But that was interesting, how she points out to the fact that maybe you didn't write the code.
Well, it all had to be a setup on Ford's part to play Teresa to this extent, to get the sympathy to fire Bernard, and to have a reason to do it in front of her. So I think this, obviously, like it all plays into a plan to lure Teresa in, because he knows that this is affecting him running the park to an extent. So he knows that, and I think this is one of those things where, He's playing a chess game, a very elaborate cat and mouse game.
It was like he pretty much drew the map that he wanted them to go through to get to exactly where he needed them to be. And speaking of drawing, we get to Dolores. Now, you said earlier about the whole thing, how, you can't draw anything, et cetera.
Sure.
But the host can. Dolores draws this amazing landscape on that canvas that she apparently, as she said, has never been to. William notices it, and then, they made sure to show us that landscape for a good, solid, at least 10 seconds, so we'd remember it when we actually knew we were going to get to it at some point. Mm-hmm. How did she know or actually see that? I mean, most likely it came through a dream.
Well, yeah, I think this is one of those. Yeah, it came through a dream. Exactly. I think it came through a dream. I think this is one of her past...
past loads?
Yeah, I guess past loads, past versions, whatever you may want to call it. It's interesting, though, because we see a lot of imagery with her leading up to this episode at a church.
Yeah.
And, I find that interesting because it's like they say that nobody's really come back from the part of the Westworld, I guess, the part of the town where they're going.
Acid dust.
But all those that follow the website, if you notice, there's a map on there. Mm-hmm. But you can't unlock pieces of the map until we get characters that get there.
Exactly.
Which is really interesting. So this is far south in the map.
Yeah.
So
because right now on the map, right now it did unlock just the area where you're able to overlook that whole valley.
The Ghost Nation.
And exactly. And it's been unlocked. It was like, oh, okay, great. So we see that, but nothing else. So my question is essentially, what's out there? So really, what is out there? Could it be the maze? That's all the way out there where no one else is.
Well, no, because if you look at the map, actually, I think it's called Snake River or something. Mm-hmm. That's north.
Right.
And well, maybe that's not a physical place because we did see the girl with the snake tattoo.
It's very true. Mm-hmm.
So maybe if it's not a physical place, then I would say yes, it could be down south. If it is a physical place, I would say no, it's up north. Mm-hmm. Very confusing, I know, but just look at the map on. I think it's called. Is it called visitwestworld.com? Mm-hmm. It's not called that. It's called something like that. No,
you can't go to visitwestworld.com and you'll find it there too.
It's called something like that. But if the Westworld website, Discover Westworld, that's what it is.
You can go to visit and it's there too.
So that's what I think. I also think, though, that what we're seeing down south where this uncharted territory is, I have a feeling that we're going to get... This is where things are going to get tricky because I think that Ford... obviously is playing a bigger game, and I think that there's a lot of renovation that's going on down there. Because if you look to the east of Westworld, it's under construction,
right?
Which kind of bleeds in down to the south. But we'll see. That was a lot. You're like, what did you?
I know. I need to get on this website. Apparently.
Oh man.
Oh dude, you're gonna be shocked. But play it low. Play the volume low because it's kind of loud in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's not scary or anything, but.
Well, let's get to everyone's favorite heroine, Maeve.
Can I give you a theory? I have a theory about Maeve.
Okay.
Can I just give a crack with you?
Shoot it.
Okay. So I was really thinking about this, and I think that the reason why Felix and Sylvester are so important are because I think they're both hosts, and this is the reason why. We saw with Clementine that when hosts even misbehave, they can just kill them.
Yeah.
No questions asked. They're just machines.
Right.
They can just kill them. Now, the reason why I think they're hosts is because they could have done the same thing. And I think that's why it was such a big deal and so emphasized that Felix brought that bird, kind of the programming of the bird, back to life because it was a host programming a host. And this is why I think it was pretty important. Because truthfully, I think, let's be honest, Felix and Sylvester could just kill them.
Yeah.
So I think that that's why this is important. And I think that they're hosts. But this plays into a bigger theory I have, which I don't know if you want me to tell you now or later.
Well, I like that theory so far because it does also answer the question of, well, why haven't they just simply give her a complete overhaul wipe and just let it be?
Well, even just rat it around like, hey, this is what's happening with this host.
Exactly. And it also says about that connection because what the show does do, it's just like in literature, when there's a connection between two people, it lets it grow. It lets it germinate and actually, develop. And you see it grow.
Well, like I said,
their connection was one that you don't see really grow. It's almost instantaneous.
And I also think
that would explain
it's
why.
Also important to notice that bringing back that bird in the programming was definitely, to me, a symbolized version of a host finally learning how to program other hosts or creatures in that world.
That makes sense, but it also goes then it contradicts to what you were afraid of or was talking about with Bernard, where you said why wasn't he glitching about with the real life things? So as them, as Felix and
that plays into my next theory.
I was just saying, like, because then they would end up having these glitches as well with explaining to Maeve all these things and like how they work, how they operate.
Can I just give my next theory now anyway?
Shoot it.
Go for it.
Okay, so I think personally, super crackpotty, I think I know what Ford's new narrative is.
Please.
I think his new narrative is actually expanding, because I know he's expanding and it makes it seem like he's expanding the actual land,
Right.
but I think he's expanding to the headquarters. I think the narrative's actually played in the headquarters now, and he has all these different hosts there, and it's almost like a game for the board and for people that work there, almost like a fuck you. Kind of like, now I'm going to show you like what it is like from reality and you know, I guess hosts from Westworld essentially.
Jeez.
I think that he's leading it up to that. He's creating all these hosts, and he has hosts there. Mm-hmm. And you know that there's hosts that are there outside of the park with Bernard. Bernard was the first one we actually saw. I actually think the board member is one of them now too. Right. And I also think that both of these technicians are hosts as well. So I think this is a different part of the game. It might even open up to a new world. But I definitely think the new narrative is being played at the headquarters now. And this harkens to your idea. You said that our boy Stubbs, that he was a host. And I actually think you're right. Because I think the reason I think he was a host is because look how quick he was easy to divert, like when they saw the drawing. I think we talked about this last week.
Yep.
And he's like, oh no, that's just Orion. Mm-hmm. It's because he can't see the reality of things too. And I
thought it was because he was in on the whole Teresa thing.
Well, I also think that too. I think that as well. But I also think, I actually think you're right too. I think he's the one that grabbed Elsie. I think that it's a bigger game that he's, at this point, I think Ford is playing this game with even the board now of like, now you're in a bigger, you're not even in the park, but you're playing the game here now too.
Yeah.
Super crackpot theory.
I'll agree. I mean, it's a good one. Dang.
I put some thought into this episode.
Is that the one you emailed to yourself?
Yeah. So last night, no joke. Last night I went home and I didn't. I went home, watched the episode, and I didn't want to forget it because it was like I watched that and last week's night.
We have notes on our phone. Like,
well, dude, I wanted to remember it. Relax about it.
Well, but that's how you remember it. You have a note.
So I looked.
iPhone.
Westworld Theories, Joe to Joe. I totally emailed it to myself.
Would you forget about it if you wrote it down?
Yeah, because I just didn't, because it was late at night and I didn't want to forget it. So I just wanted to write it down and email it to myself just to make sure.
Well, I mean, the good thing was you weren't getting a lobotomy like Clem.
No, that's
so
true.
you'll be able to remember it even if you didn't.
Well, what do you guys think though? Do you think this is do you think I'm on any, I could be completely wrong by the way.
I mean, it makes sense because the idea is why would Arnold continue to, sorry, I said Arnold. Ooh, maybe I gave something away.
Bernard?
Ford. Continually replace people with hosts in the site, in the workplace, unless he, I just don't see the point of it unless he's trying to make it a game. So that whenever the board, when real life people come in, I don't see what his plan is with making everybody host.
Okay. I get that. That makes sense.
Well, I think it's because, now, this could be one out of two things. Because I did state earlier in past episodes that I thought Ford was a host, and like this is a host trying to just create a world full of robots, which is still possible, but I think it's less likely now. But I think that he's trying to play this game because, truthfully, I think he likes playing God.
Yeah.
I think it's a God complex. I don't necessarily think, though, that... See, obviously, we know that some people are humans. Like, we know that... we don't know for sure, but we can take the best guess that William's a human. The Man in Black's a human. Maybe. Because that one's even iffy. But, you know, we're starting to distinguish humanity and hosts. And I think it's very important to realize that he is playing God. And that's where the episode kind of ends.
So, I love the theory. I do. Every bit of it. I don't have anything to poke.
I will say
with.
this though, the comments that we've had in the past have had way better theories than that.
Oh yeah.
People love this show, and it is definitely one of those water cooler shows because I work in an office. at some production place. And like, I'm not gonna lie, Scott Head, thank you very much. He helped me make some of those theories because
Oh
we
my
were, like,
God,
talking
that's
about
not fair. That's
we were
not
talking
fair.
about it because we had some theories of our own, and we were like, yeah, what if this? What if that? And
Well,
it's
I
like,
mean, I've spoken with people and they thought that Ford was also a host. That maybe because he was like one of Arnold's first creations to be ultimately the most human-like that they could, like to rationalize and think on their own, and that Ford surpassed his intelligence and overthinking, and then he killed Arnold. But Arnold maybe was onto Ford and put onto and like this is where I was agreeing, like it was onto him and started doing like these back codes and like into the other people that he programmed, like Dolores. Like that's why all these other people are hearing Arnold's voice. Was this is Arnold's doings from like before, things that he had said.
It would also
set
count
in
for
motion.
it would also count for a good bit of symbolism where Ford, to remember his Arnold, has this one maid that looks just like Arnold, who is his father.
Well,
that would be like a good bit of symbolism. as
I've
far as
also
making
heard
that
a
host.
theory that, and again, these are all just theories, but that this is actually a continuation of the movie.
People have said that also, but I don't know. I mean, we don't know until we know what that incident is. We don't know, and I'm thinking that would work out well. As far as, okay, the incident was something that
And
happened
it's
30
crazy.
years
This show
ago.
can go so many places. I do have a question for you guys. This is a little off topic in terms of the story, but in terms of this narrative as Westworld, do you think this is better viewed as a serial week to week, or do you think this is something you binge watch like on Netflix? Because that's a debate I've been having in the
Okay,
office.
yeah. As far as the suspense and everything, and in like the wanting to, like, oh, what's gonna happen next, and then it gives your brain time to think. I was trying to play catch up on like a Sunday that I had missed past, and the way that the
Oh, is that the week you didn't know how to enter in a passcode in a login?
yeah. First of all, there was a capital letter there, and you left it out. So that's funny. But the theory is that I'm sorry, like with it being a movie or being separate,
Well, like being like if you wanted to watch it serialized, or if you wanted
just
to
a
binge watch it like on
yeah.
Netflix.
So I probably would have preferred to binge watch it just
I agree with her.
because it's done so well as a movie to me that it would play. I mean, even like the first time we ever watched the
Pilot.
yeah, the pilot
Oh, yeah.
episode, I felt like I was watching a movie.
Yeah,
It was
that's
done.
very
Oh, but speaking of which, this episode was beautiful. Some of those aerial shots and the chase
amazing.
shots, like you could
Completely
tell
different episode
that-
compared to other ones
Yeah,
we
it
saw.
seemed like a lot of money went into this particular episode.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Now, I love this form of storytelling because it gives you enough to hang on for the next episode. But I think this show in particular is better viewed in binge watching, mainly because it took us 6 episodes to get real answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with Lost, I know this is very comparable
Oh,
to Lost.
boy.
With Lost, it gave you, Lost would do, which you're going to watch by the way, it would set up the question so well, and then it would leave you like in a cliffhanger of like, now I have to watch the next episode.
Yeah.
But it would also leave you in a place that wouldn't necessarily tie up that episode, but it tie up certain plot lines along the way. And
True.
I think this show is more of a long con.
It definitely is a long con, but I'm of the mind that says I like it being
I love it.
episodic and actually watching the show week to week because I do want something to be able to talk about with people. Like, oh my God, did you see it?
Yeah, I mean-
because if I have all the answers, then I'm just waiting to like, did
No,
you see
yeah,
the whole show
I mean,
yet?
That happens a lot
When we
with,
get
those, with
here.
like that happened a lot with me, with
Stranger
Stranger
Things.
Things and like Luke Cage or
Yeah,
like Daredevil. Where
exactly.
It's like, I'll finish it and you'll like still be
I
I'm
have to
like,
wait.
oh, I have still 4 or 5 episodes. I'm like, dude, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah, get rid of your life and watch us now. You can't do that.
Sorry, didn't mean to derail you, but that was a little debate I had about Westworld.
But I just wanted to talk about the scene as far as Maeve, Felix, Sylvester, where Maeve walks in and sees Sylvester giving Clementine the lobotomy. And at that moment, you pointed out something earlier. She did get
That we
rid
saw
of
her
her.
naked.
That was my point, was that there's a huge difference that we see from and the beautiful like music ballad from Maeve walking through the
Headquarters at the command
headquarters
center.
with she was fully clothed. You see how like everything is very sensitive and pressuring her, and now she's walking through and she's She's naked.
She's naked.
And she's much more forceful. And like you see like there's so much done here on the director's part showing you like the difference in how she is now, because it's just very raw now, I think.
But the great thing, I know we spoke about it earlier off camera, the nudity in this show versus other shows. It's like for that scene, it's almost our producer Josh said clinical is probably the best word for it, and it is in that way where you're not objectifying her when she's naked. Versus when you watch Game of Thrones, every time someone's naked, it's sensationalism. It's just they're naked, stare at it.
I mean, we did have
the
this before though, when in the indulgence of like the Sodom and Gomorrah type.
Oh my gosh, when it was like in your face.
That was.
I mean, it was meant
was
to,
the point.
Yeah,
it was
meant
the point
to, yeah.
for that. But other moments where we do see nudity, where they're at the headquarters, it's always clinical. Everywhere else, it's sensationalism. And it was just for her to be able to play that scene in a way where it was like, you forget that she's naked because you're just looking for the reaction. And she stares at Clementine and that single tear comes down. And you mentioned it earlier. She, I think, dropped her empathy down, right?
It was her loyalty.
It was her loyalty. That's right. But I could have swore maybe you're right, Maverick.
But yeah, she did say loyalty. She dropped her loyalty down, but still that tear comes down. And it's just, that lets me know that when it's not a revolution that Maeve will be leading, if it happens, it's going to be a rebellion. It's not something where it's like, we're looking to revolt. It's looking to rebel. It's looking to take over, change, and exist. That's something that she's going to want to do. And you can see that right there with that moment with Clem.
Well, she's died a million times.
Very true.
You died.
Oh, that's something she does ask. Ooh. But let's get down to the nitty gritty. I think the best part, which was like the last 10 minutes. And it's all Bernard all the time. That was the best part.
They set it up so well.
Breadcrumbs, man, breadcrumbs.
When they get, it's like, hey, I know you've been sending signals outside of the park. I know it's you. I don't care, but I have something I need to show you.
Oh,
pretty much that was Ford saying, hey, come here. I'm gonna kill you.
Right. But I know
we'll get to this, but I also like the fact that Ford kind of like doesn't even take responsibility for it. He's like, he almost turns a blind eye to it. It's like letting his host do all the dirty work. I love his character.
Oh, with just a kill command too. That was the great thing about it. And it was like, ooh. But so Bernard speaks to Teresa and gets her to jump on the elevator so they can go to the cabin. The Ford family cabin, I guess is the best way to say it. And he takes her there. And there's so much that happens, like we said, the breadcrumbs. He says the line to her that was like, before he says, the longer I work here, I understand the host. It's human beings that confuse me. It's like, here goes a little bit of a nod to you. Maybe you're not figuring that out yet. And then after that, they get off the elevator and they're going through, and it says, hosts are programmed to not see the cabin, even if they are staring right at it. Just gives us a little bit of setup. And then immediately right after that, she says, what about this door? And the line happens.
What door?
Where right there, I yelled at my TV right there when it was like, what about the door? What door? I was like, run, bitch, run! I swear to God. I was like, she better go and save her life now because he is going to kill you. That is a horror film.
You were on to Bernard then?
Yeah,
right
I
there.
was too. You were?
Right there.
When he said what door, and you can clearly see door, I was like, oh shit.
Well, I didn't, because whenever he first shows up into the house on a few episodes ago, he was so baffled by these hosts, and the first host, like, he never turns his back, so there was no reason for him to look at the door.
And if you actually watch that scene over, the door's not there.
Yeah, the door's not there, but
we're looking through his eyes. That's
yeah, and also Ford pops up out of nowhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was the great thing about it. That was smart the way they did it. So it was like we were seeing it through Bernard's eyes. That's why we couldn't see the door, and that's why it almost appears Ford pops up out of nowhere because Ford came out of the door.
But it does. Since we did get this reveal, I am curious, which we brought up early on in this episode of the Bullets of Milk, is that I wonder what he was doing with Dolores. Do you think Bernard knows that Arnold was in this park messing with some of these hosts? and he's using Bernard almost as a watchdog in a sense to get information, because it seemed like he was getting more information than he was giving. See, it's very hard to even explain, because it seemed like he was giving Dolores nuggets of information about his life.
See, and
or even talking about like Alice in Wonderland, down the rabbit hole, and all these little things. Mm-hmm. So I'm really curious to see where that was supposed to go, or where that even ends up.
I don't know where that's going to end up. Truth of the matter is, because when you get to that point where it's like you're trying to put all these pieces together, and it feels in a way like, wait a minute, by giving us this reveal, you guys have a lot of plot holes that you need to fill now. Because why, if everything he did was orchestrated by Ford, why is he giving Dolores this information?
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
Unless not everything is delivered by Ford. Maybe Ford does allow him to go ahead and move according to his own level of cognizance.
Well, maybe also that's why Ford was disgusted with Dolores, almost like you're in your little loop. Because he's trying to get this information where he thought he was going to be able to get Bernard. He thought he was going to be able to send Bernard in to get this information. And obviously that didn't work. So he tried to get the information himself, and even that didn't work. So maybe he's just like, okay, now
so that goes back to, I think that was kind of the question I said, was what was Ford's motives?
Yeah, exactly.
With Bernard and questioning Dolores. But then also the thing is that if Ford built Bernard, and his picture is within the pictures that you saw Dolores in her diagram, so then did Ford build Dolores then?
I think Arnold... that's a great question.
Because he says that Dolores was one of the first built. And you see even in a recap, Bernard in a previous episode, she says, pull up all of Arnold's creations. Like what was the first right. modems, and it shows Dolores, and it shows a list of all the hosts that have been made by Arnold. So I was just kind of curious as to why Dolores' picture was in there with Bernard.
I don't know. See, there's so many theories that could happen. Like, what if Arnold is just kind of like a what is it called? Not an alter ego, but kind of like a fake persona that
people have said that
he's taking,
almost like a Tyler Durden kind of thing.
Not necessarily, because he would be very conscious of it, but he's throwing this on a fictional character that he is supposedly dead.
Well, it makes for a good story. And there was a moment where Ford says the famous line that everyone always says, when the legend becomes so much or whatever, you print the legend. Yeah, and he said
that's
that.
That's what Tyler Durden says too. Yeah,
but he does say that, and I'm wondering if that's exactly what's happening, where he creates this lie about Arnold, et cetera, and that's what everyone else goes for. Think about it. If he says, okay, Arnold made this type of code, I didn't really do it, so I can't really break it down the same way Arnold can, but I'm the only person that's close enough to do it. So you can't get rid of me. Sure. You do need me. I'm also the co-creator, but I can't adjust it the way you guys want it to, which gives me freedom to do whatever I want, because the truth of the matter is, there is no Arnold. I did everything.
I always hated the way that Bernard would talk to people like that.
I hate this.
I wanted him to push up his
all right. So,
his glasses.
I don't understand. I don't understand.
That scene was so good. All right, I have a question.
His whole existential crisis?
Well, no, the majority of people would kind of agree. I don't know. But I think that for sure the host that's being made right there is Teresa.
Here it comes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Everyone is saying the same thing.
And he's going to replace Teresa on the board to
be... because you come down there, it's already being built. It's like that was once again Ford, because Ford likes to do that. He likes to be like P.T. Barnum in a way, where it's like, here, come on down and see what I've got. Like I'm going to show you all my hand.
I do agree.
Because you're going to be ended into
I think that once the next episode, maybe probably not so soon, or a few episodes down, you're going to see Teresa walk into the...
It's going to take a few days for that to be built.
Right, you'll see her walk into the boardroom, and everybody, the viewers that aren't watching us or aren't catching on, are going to be like, oh my gosh.
It could be Elsie also.
You think?
I mean, it could be. I think Teresa. I have a feeling it's
Teresa because I feel that Stubbs is the one that went ahead and yanked Elsie.
I agree too, but also if Stubbs is a host, it'd be the same.
But guy. I feel he was the host working for Teresa.
Oh, I don't.
Or Charlotte.
I don't. I don't. I think that because if you put it into those terms, I think Charlotte is working for Ford too, because that's a host.
Right. I would think it's a host.
Oh, one thing that was interesting, I forgot to say. Remember when when Bernard was looking up the unregistered hosts and it said there were 5.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know the dog counts as number 5. A lot of people were speculating that they didn't count the dog; they were actually counting Ford.
I mean, that would
So that would help you. I just had to say that.
But and it does say that in the website, which I did a lot of research on, that the only thing that aren't a part of the experience there are the flies.
Yep.
Everything else.
So,
Everything
wait,
else.
so the flies are real then?
Flies are real.
Flies are real. Everything else, no. So that means the bees, the snakes, iguanas. Oh, that's.
But it also says that they're not programmed to cause you harm. It's something called like. They put it in a really fancy term, but it's like to look like harm, but it's not really.
It's supposed to.
Doesn't harm you.
Yeah.
But you can still die, and it gives you a list of things you can die from.
I went over this,
and it's pretty cool though. It's pretty cool. You should check it out.
I will.
The autoerotic asphyxiation.
Autoerotic asphyxiation, drowning's one of them.
But these are all things that have happened
being
in the park.
stampeded
Actually.
on.
So people have died in the park because it says.
But I thought they
these
said
are
there was
things-
only one death in the park.
See, but then after that, when you're reading, if you read that thing again, it says these are all deaths that can happen and have. And then it goes into it, where it says the flood, it says the stampede, autoerotic asphyxiation, blah, blah, yada, 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 all these other ones. And you're like, wow, tumbleweed?
Tumbleweed, yep. That
How
was
can
one
a
of them.
tumbleweed kill you?
I don't know. Well, Maverick,
Death.
how does tumbleweed kill
Yeah,
you?
please.
There aren't tumbleweeds in Mississippi.
Oh, I don't
Oh,
know.
I don't know.
I don't
Maybe
think
cotton.
Maybe. Hey, cotton can be dangerous, man. The touch, the
Prickly.
feel of cotton.
No, but there's so many different ways to look at how this episode ended, and what I'm really curious about is to kind of see how they said they stopped production after this episode, and try to figure out the last 3 episodes, and went back and shot footage for the first 7 episodes, and had to map out more seasons because they knew it was going to get picked up because it's in position to replace Game of Thrones eventually when we get there.
But they're saying the number that they want to do, as far as if they are interested in doing it, was 5.
Really?
That's what Nolan was saying. I want to do 5 seasons. I have an idea. I have my show Bible. 5 seasons at the most. But we'll see because, you know, HBO starts giving you that money and they're like, hey, you know what you can do right here in season 3? You can make this change, this change.
Well, and also the
blah,
great
blah.
part about this is they don't have to adhere to any kind of like book like Game of Thrones.
Sure.
I mean, it's based on a movie that's based on the Michael
And they've
Crichton,
already-
Michael Crichton movie.
yeah.
And they've already kind of established what he brought into with the movie. So now we're just going beyond Westworld.
Are we still following along with the movie? Because you said you saw the movie, right?
No.
When did it?
The movie, well, we still have parts to go if we're trying to follow with the movie.
Well, also the movie is first gen hosts.
Yes, that's
So
right.
that's why
That's
that's
right.
why the 5 hosts that were found and unaccounted for and the family could
First
be
gen.
like versions of characters from the movie that I've read a thing on that's why it could be a continuation of the movie.
Yeah.
And also the Yul Brynner character was down in the bottom of the thing.
Yeah,
So-
that's right. That's right. At least something of it. It was an Easter egg, or was it a
Homage,
recall?
it could have been a real thing. Who
Any
knows?
way it goes. But going back to Bernard, because the whole till we get to the point where we kill Teresa, there's so much that happens where she's like, "Well, Bernard, what is this?" And he says that line again, which is,
Doesn't look like anything to me.
I love when she says it. But he says that, and then it
Maveric's
was
a
like,
host, that's
yeah,
it.
I'm telling you. So it was just like that. It doesn't look like anything to me. And that was another one where it was like, okay, well, now expositional payoff. It was right there. And then from there, we go right into where, I don't know. Because she's freaking out. She's freaking out. She goes to Ford, and Ford gives his whole diabolical explanation for what's happening. And well, no, he came here because he brought me here. And Ford tells her, no, you're wrong.
You know what's funny is that when she was looking at these pictures, and obviously they don't show, and they see her reaction in it.
Have you seen these?
I thought she was going to show. I thought it was going to be a picture of her.
No, I for sure knew it was going to
No,
be
I knew it was
Bernard.
Well, you guys knew it was going to be Bernard because you were already on to the fact that he was a host.
But that would have been a good one. That would have been interesting.
That's why, and so
Like, what if
I
it was
don't
one
know.
of her and Bernard?
Yeah,
That-
I was thinking that it was
ooh,
going to be like
Well, I
her
was
and
surprised to see
Bernard,
Dolores.
like it was going to see all these people, and then
little
they were
bit.
going to like stumble onto Ford's plan of trying to
Replacing, and that
but,
happens
yeah.
actually in Tomorrow World, which is a sequel to it. And
Oh,
it
there's a
happened
sequel?
There's a sequel. It happened in the 80s, and then the show also. But in there, that was the whole plot or premise. They'd get rich people to come, rich or influential people, to come to the park, and then they'd replace them with a host and then send them out.
Yeah, you can't
That was
stay
the
for
whole
more than
thing.
28 days.
Yeah. So that was the whole thing with that. But here, at least, we have that moment where she does show Bernard. Bernard then has his existential crisis and freaks out. That was so good. It was so well acted. Because you could see him having that crisis right in his head. And then Ford and Teresa are literally having a conversation, and he's there like a little kid. Doesn't know I don't understand. I don't understand. And she just, you monster, you know? And it was just like, it was so well done. And then Ford gets to explain to her what's happening, leans into her ear for that Hannibal Lecter moment.
Well, I love the
and tells her
explanation
that.
that he kind
Hello,
of gives. The explanation of like, listen, these are pretty much, they have like less, what did he say? They have less, I didn't say sympathy, but they have less whatever than us. Like, they're almost like perfect beings.
Yeah, because
kinda
they don't
gave
have to
this
worry about
really
the
smart
particular-
explanation.
They don't
on
have to
how-
worry about the particular things that we have to worry about as far as our emotions and our things of that nature. It's like
I found that quite like poignant, especially for this character, because everything that Ford does, he has a justification for it. And truthfully, you can't necessarily argue with it because it does seem kind of right.
Well, I agree with you, even just barring the look. I agree with you because at this point, Ford is pretty much doing this. Is he doing it for power or is he doing it for protection of his own creation?
I think maybe both.
I mean, then he's an autocratic god kind of thing if he's doing it for both.
But if he's a host, then he's doing it for a sole purpose, and that purpose could definitely be a derivative from Arnold, actually.
Yeah.
True.
Being like, you know what, I might have passed, but my creations are going to live forever. My fingerprint's going to be on this forever. Not just in this park, but in the world, possibly. That's
about
why I
you?
think that the new narrative could be in
I guess in my head what I was running through and what maybe why you were having this look was I was thinking about something we talked about with touching back on the theory that the Men in Black is William and that there's two different timelines going on, which would answer why we saw Lawrence and then we saw Alonzo like almost immediately afterwards in the loop, how was he replaced like that. But then, you know, I was like, I'm pretty sure we debunked it whenever Dolores walked into to William's arms when they were out there on by the fire that day.
Well, people say it opened back up with a few other parts of the episode, but yeah, I don't know.
But you brought it up with something that William talked about with, I used to think that this park, you know, brought out the ugly in you, but it really just brings out your true self. And then it also made me think, well, what about like Teddy? And I don't know, it kind of makes sense that maybe, I don't necessarily know that William is the Man in Black, but maybe there are two different timelines happening here, because
There could also be two different Doloreses running around. One is Arnold and one is
One
Ford's.
of Ford's. That's somebody else said.
that's true. I mean, because the only reason why though, like with the timeline that's different is that Dolores keeps having these flashbacks of a chapel of a white church, and then you see Ford building it, and these are in his prototypes of a church, and so that's where it would make sense that there maybe is two different timelines happening.
Well, I mean, it's also not out of the ordinary that there would be two different Doloreses, because we know that Dolores was chasing Dolores down the rabbit hole to get to where she needed to go. So even though that could have been like a vision or whatever, but there could definitely be more than one Dolores in Westworld currently.
Could be.
One that, I don't want to say completely free, but one is less free than the other maybe. I don't know. Who knows? But wow, that was my knee. You hear that? But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I do think, though, that the dual timeline theory is still probably the most probable. And the reason I want to say that is, and I think the Man in Black and William theory is still intact, mainly because the reason why when we do see Lawrence and Alonzo is almost a significance of like William knew Alonzo was so important to getting to this maze or whatever he was trying to unlock, that when he kept coming back to Westworld, he knew that he needed to find Dolores. He needed to find Alonzo.
I get you.
And in this scenario, he knew at this point he evolved so much.
You said William
William would be the Man in Black at this point.
You said, but you're saying that William said that he needed to find Dolores, and they needed.
Well,
to find...
if he is the Man in Black, and if he is indeed the Man in Black, because if he is William, he knows how important this is, because now we're seeing the origin of the Man in Black. We're seeing the white hat become the black hat eventually. And it's funny because actually when you go to the website, which I'll reference again, discoverwestworld.com, and you book your stay, the passcode they give you is white hat, black hat.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting too. So I think it's definitely telling. Now, I'm not saying it's confirmed, obviously, but I am saying that it's definitely possible that, one, the reason why he has such an attachment to Dolores is because she gets programmed every so often and her mind somewhat wiped. And he wants, because he fell in love with Dolores essentially as the Man in Black, as William. And then, and I don't think it was rape. That's why I don't think it was rape, is that he's trying to get her to remember. And two, because I think he felt that he was so close to unlocking her now that maybe that she was, her mind was wiped, obviously in the future. And then two, he knows that Alonzo is such an important person, but now he's Lawrence. Right. And he needs to find Lawrence in order to get to the journey that he was on. And he's been on this journey for a very long time. That's what I think.
Okay, as you were going through that, I just had something that may crash this all, was that... I know. I don't know. I think that when Dolores' first Peter Abernathy father experiences this glitch, the shortage that happens, you see that their interaction with that, and then you see Ford speaking to Peter with Bernard and Elise, all of the
Elsie.
people. Oh, dang, come on. Elsie. All in the same thing, all in the same genre, questioning Peter Abernathy. So that makes me think that maybe it isn't the same timeline.
Well, I don't think that's a. I don't think
he's trying
that's,
to blow up here.
I'm waiting.
You're like, you kill my dreams all the time, every
But
week.
doesn't that make sense?
No, absolutely not.
I'm gonna put it down for now. It seems like the Man in Black saved you.
I think that. Wait, what are you saying exactly?
I'm saying that the timeline of when Peter Abernathy, the first Dolores, the original Dolores' father, is experiencing his glitch, his troubles. You see, then when he comes back to headquarters, you see Ford questioning him, but also with Bernard, also with Elsie.
Yes.
Elsie. All of these people in that same timeline and same loop, where if this was a different timeline back whenever it first started, and now we're thinking about 30 years later, that part just doesn't line up.
Well, because this version of Dolores has a different narrative, because they've caught the glitch, as we might see later on. I feel like this is where William's at, and this is where the Man in Black is, and there's all this we need to get through. But the players are still the same. You have Teddy, you have Dolores, and you have Lawrence / Alonzo. So all three of those characters have played a significant role in this, and I think that since William has been on this journey before, if William is indeed the Man in Black, if he's been on this journey before, he knows that he needs those three people.
But it makes sense. But hold your hands back up again. We were talking about William and the Man in Black. All of the things that were happening with Dolores and the glitches and everything like that are happening in this timeline. But what's happening here, it just doesn't make sense, because what would be happening would have set off that should have been taken place here.
No, because I don't think, because what we're not seeing is there weren't any glitches in this timeline. All we're seeing is people or hosts being enlightened. We haven't seen any glitches here. We've only seen glitches here. You see what I'm saying?
The referee only exists in the present.
It existed in the Man in Black timeline. We haven't seen any referees. We haven't seen any cases of revenge per se in this timeline.
Okay.
At least none that I can recall. I could be completely wrong.
Yeah.
None that I can recall, because I think. Well, I guess that's not true actually, because we did get a sense of revenge with Dolores even, because then she runs into William and Logan. But maybe that was the genesis of it though. And this is where we're seeing the effects of more things are happening.
Speaking of ideas, I gotta read this from K. Richard J. Shout out K. Richard J. He does say Ford lied about Arnold because Bernard Lowe equals Arnold Weber. Anagram reveal. Take a look and see. Arnold Bernard Lowe equals Arnold Weber.
Interesting.
Anagram reveal. So Ford made Bernard to replace his dead partner.
Yeah, that makes tons of sense.
That's interesting.
That's a great.
That's really interesting.
Where did he get Weber though?
Weber. That's what I was going to ask. Richard, you're going to have to tell us. Okay, Richard J, you're gonna have to tell us.
Is it on
where did you get Weber?
Is it on the website?
No, it was on the website.
Something I probably overlooked. The one thing I overlooked on the website.
Something that you didn't look at. There aren't too many comments
because we want to apologize for being late this week. This
Sorry,
one
guys.
will not be late, or else Maverick is gonna watch 2 episodes of Lost.
That's
Hey,
right.
now.
Did there?
Hey, now.
Huh? No.
No, but you can continue on with those comments.
There weren't too many. Most of them were us being late. For example, Rant Casey, first comment, boom, like right off the bat. Isn't this a week late? I've watched literally dozens of episode 6 reactions already. We are on episode 7 now. Jesus, you guys are late. We're sorry. We're sorry.
We missed the train to Westworld last week, apparently.
Yeah. And that's our fault. The election ruined a lot of things for us. There was like the train couldn't go.
There was some protesting.
So much. You have no idea. So, but we're here now. We're here now, and this one will be on time.
Ish.
Hopefully, ish.
No, it will be on time. But I do think, though, overall, this answers a lot of questions. Like, there's been a lot of discussion if Bernard was a host. Well, obviously, we got that confirmed.
Yeah.
We also now know that we almost know what Ford's plot is, at least with Dolores. I've been using a lot of my hands today.
We're closer
with Teresa.
We're closer.
We know Charlotte's motives.
Ooh.
We just don't know if she's a host yet, so that's still yet to be answered. We know, what else do we know, guys? We know that William cheated on his wife back home with Dolores.
Oh yeah, was it cheating? She's a robot?
Fiance. You don't know yet.
And I mean, she's done it already, so why couldn't he do it? Right? Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
Remember, Logan says, I know when my sister came here, she rode her share
they
of
talked
cowboys.
Oh.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So think about that.
No, I don't want to. I'm good. Yeah. So
I don't know what other answers do we have. I think that's for this biggest one once again.
Well, I think the biggest thing is like it's not necessarily that answers that the questions have been answered. Like I think it just more of did away with our questions. Like there was no like now we have just a whole now with this episode. I just feel like there's a whole new like even if that was a question, it doesn't matter if it didn't get answered. If it answered, like
that's true.
From now, like now, I just feel like there's and obviously there's still like the baseline. Like, what is Ford's agenda? What's going on here? Those are still very apparent.
How many people has Ford replaced with hosts?
That's a
Who
very
is a
good
host
question.
And who is actually a real person?
This is what I'm saying. The narrative is going to expand outside of actual Westworld, and it's going to be part of the headquarters now. I think it's going to be a whole new thing. Whole new ball game going into season 2.
I love this face right here. Because
you don't think so?
It was like... I'm gonna be polite and smile, but I don't know if that's right.
I don't think that it's either or. I didn't disagree with that. I just I more so whenever as you say things, I start thinking. I play it out in my head, and that's the look that I think you guys keep seeing in me. Is like I just think about it through.
I'm just afraid to give theories now because I just don't want to get
shot down by the. She's the teddy bullets like over here with the
really.
Theories.
No, I just play it out, and then as something comes on, there'll be a red flag, like with the Peter Abernathy thing with the timeline, that would play out as a red flag. So that's why I was thinking of that. That's all I'm doing.
No, but we need that actually.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys something. With the Ghost Nation, this is something I am curious about. Do you think that there are what do you think their purpose is? Because it seems like the Ghost Nation, if I remember correctly, worship the
Shades.
The Shades. So are they just enlightened?
What's the difference
hosts?
in Ghost Nation and Shades?
The Shades are the dudes that work for
the cleanup crew.
Yeah, for Delos.
Oh,
Yes.
And
the Ghost Nation are like the Native Americans.
Right, because he asked, that's Maeve asked about that to Hector, and like they worship the Shades.
So that's what I'm curious about. Because I don't think they're a band of like a cultish like group of guests that come in. I mean, the guests that could be.
Well, I feel.
Well, no, they wouldn't be.
No, I feel that the Ghost Nation is a far more.
They're like the White Walkers from Game of Thrones?
No, they're more like a far more emphatic religious sect of the...
That are serving out some just crazy armadillo justice. Right?
Of those Native Americans, yeah. Serving out armadillo justice. No, think about it. It's like, for example, like during the Crusades, you had the Christians or Catholics that were there, and then you had the people that were actually going out and working to convert people, or et cetera, et cetera.
But my point is, if they're just hosts, like... Wouldn't they just
their narrative.
fix the... You think that would be their narrative to worship, like, the shades?
Well, that's a bit of enlightenment, I feel.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, because I think they would be a little too curtain,
my thing is,
like, behind the
how
curtain.
How is that unchecked? How are
That's
they
my
not
point.
like,
That's exactly my
point. They're worshiping us and calling us the shade. We should wipe out all of their memories now.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, and no one has. Are they even afraid to go over there to them? Like, if they're so farther out, maybe they never even get routinely
But if
checked.
they're just guests. But see here, this is what begs the question. Because if they're just hosts, that do we know officially that hosts can bring other hosts back to life? Because it seemed like the man in black knew exactly how much blood he needed for Teddy, though he did measure up Lawrence at the time.
First of all, how did he transfuse his blood? Is what I'm
Same way we saw them put the nitro into Slim would be the same way I'm thinking they did it with that.
Which means if he is William, he would know how to do that already because he must have seen it done by.
That's why I said it.
Alonzo.
Okay, we'll see.
Anyway, whatever.
My gosh, your theory was so good. I have no
Which
theories.
one? I gave you like 4.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I have no theories this week because that's a mic drop, man.
And we'll see. We'll see if any of this plays out. I mean, listen, it switches week to week, man.
It does.
One week I think Ford's a host. The other week I think he's not. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening.
Was that your Stan Lee
Chaos.
impersonation?
Just gonna.
Yeah, knock everything over.
It's frustrating.
Do you have any theories? Or
No,
anything?
mine are still similar to the same. I'm kind of going with along the lines that would make sense if Ford was a host and he was probably Arnold's ultimate creator, and that he maybe killed.
Creation.
Creation. Killed Arnold in the park and to take over his role. And then we're seeing where maybe Arnold was onto him and programmed his host that he actually created to have like these loopholes, these triggers that would happen.
That's what I said last week.
What's she thinking now?
Yes.
You guys see? Of the same mind. I like that.
Maybe.
I like that. Growing as a team.
No, I actually think you're right. Actually, and I agree with you. I do think Stubbs, now that like watching this, I definitely think Stubbs is a host.
Yeah. Or and this, like, again, just playing devil's advocate, is what if Stubbs is not a host, but he's on to Ford, and he, like, so you think that he takes away.
I'll see.
Dang it.
I don't. You know why? I don't
But
think so.
reality,
Because
grabs her
if you
to
think
tell her
about
what's
it,
going on.
Yeah.
if you think about it, when Firestarter host was going to kill her, he didn't stop her. You know, he wasn't in the greatest position to, but he didn't stop her.
Well, because he was stuck. Like, dude.
I don't think he was as stuck as you saw, man.
That dude knocked him over and was like...
But he has a gun. That's the point. He could have
Nah,
just
he
shot
could've
him.
shot.
My thing is, at some point, I almost feel like he was almost leading her out there, whether or not she was going to die. He was almost leading her out there to die. Ooh. And I think, because you think about it, if he is the one that did that at the theater, or kidnapped her, whatever he may have done at the theater, he could have easily killed that thing. Yeah. He could have just shot it.
I agree. And I'm saying, my
and I even
is
think
that
he
he's
thought
a host.
it was going to kill her, because he was like, well, the blood's not on my hands. It's
True.
Right.
Ooh.
I mean, I still think that he's a host. I was just thinking, like, devil's advocate would be, what if it would be what we didn't think, which is that Stubbs pulls her aside and is like, says, this is what's going on. I'm going to fill you in. Like, we're on to host. Like, we have, like, there's some of us that are trying to figure this out. And
Is it fair to say that the Bernard being a host is the biggest plot twist so far?
Yeah, I would say so. Until we find out Sizemore is one. I don't know.
I don't think he is one.
I don't think he is one
If we
either.
do get the reveal that Ford is one, I think it's going to be a little disappointing this early on.
I think it would
yeah,
be
it won't be
disappointing
this
at all.
early.
I think it would be disappointing the whole way through, unless, well, no, if it was later And it goes to the same idea that Maverick did say, where it's like, okay, he essentially killed the creator and now blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
That will work out well.
I'm asking you guys this going into episode 8, season 1. Would you be happy if Ford is a host, or would you not? Would you be like, that was stupid?
Oh, I'm so pissed and done with the show. Ford is a host already next episode.
Well,
not
that's
next episode.
gonna-
I mean, in the course of this whole series.
Oh no, I'd be great. I'd be happy.
Okay, Maverick.
I think that it makes sense that he would be, but I just like with the way that everything is done out, so
meticulously.
I just don't think that like it's gonna like if we can figure it out so easily,
So
then
cliche.
it's like yeah.
So
it's
you're
a
gonna
cliche.
say, would you be happy with it though if it was revealed?
Well, yeah, because I want to be right.
Okay.
But I enjoy being proven wrong, especially by the show, because when they prove me wrong, it's so smart.
Man, I'm on the fence because if you and I, obviously last week my whole rhetoric was yes, he's a host. Now I'm like, dude, I don't know. You got me, Jonathan Nolan, you bastard.
He's got all of us actually, and I think that would be a great time to stop this discussion, this review, this reaction. Make sure you guys follow us here on YouTube at That Hashtag Show, as well as on Twitter at That Hashtag Show, and use the hashtag Bullets and Milk to keep the conversation going on Twitter and in the comments below. Trust me, we will discuss your comments like we did this week. If you guys got any good theories, please make sure to include them.
Or if you
and
can
tell
help us out, like
Thank
in
you.
our
I was
age
just
and our
gonna say.
crackpot theories, let's
Yeah,
hear
if you
it.
can give us a little bit more flesh to any of our theories, please, because we want to make sure that Maverick doesn't shoot us all down.
Yes, and we did a lip sync challenge. You can see the three of us lip syncing the Backstreet Boys. I Want It That Way.
Yeah.
That's going to be on Facebook. It's pretty awesome. For Ranger
pretty
Live
good.
Chat, they did a great thing.
Yeah, you guys will love it. Well, with that, I want to say thank you. My name is Daniel.
Maverick.
And I'm Joe.
Bang, bang, and go, go.